get them in the evening too. I get the blues in the morning. How about you? I get that lonely, lonely feeling they call the New London Blues. I get the lonely, lonely feeling they call the New London Blues.
Good evening and welcome to LOT. We are looking out for taxpayers, citizens for fair and responsible government. I'm Diane Hansen, and with me tonight is Bill Cornish. We should have a great show because when Bill and I get together, we just don't stop talking.
I don't know how that happens, but it does happen that way. Yeah.
So we'd like to invite you to our meetings. LOT meets on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. We meet at 7 o'clock at the Senior Center. We have interesting discussions, and we have lots of ideas. We'd like to hear what your ideas are. So this is a call-in show. Please be sure and pick up the phone and dial the number that will be on your screen. And give us a call. Let us know what you're thinking about. We have a picnic coming up, September 19th, the LOT Annual Picnic. It'll be at Larry and Barbara Hampel's house on Pequot Avenue. It's a beautiful place, and there's a view of the river, and we'll have hot dogs, hamburgers. The tickets are $10. We're getting that together so that we'll have tickets to sell very soon. But please put it on your calendar. And I can't remember what the date is for our candidate forum, but we are planning, because this is an election year, we're planning a forum to introduce people to the candidates for City Council, Board of Education, and Mayor. It'll be on October the 2nd, the 4th. I think it's the 4th Wednesday, but don't quote me. Just put the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month on your calendar for our candidate forums, and hopefully we'll see you there. It'll be pretty free-ranging. We'll have questions from the audience, and you can direct it to one or all of the council and Board of Ed and mayor candidates. So there was a lot of news today in the paper about New London politics.
Yeah.
Mayor race this year. John Russell just stepped into the race. His press release was in the paper today.
Oh, I didn't read it.
Running as a third-party candidate.
For mayor?
For mayor.
Son of a gun.
So
third-party candidate.
Third-party candidate. He's a
He's not a Republican.
former city councilor. He has been a member of the Republican Party. I don't know if he still is, but I don't remember what the press release said, but he used to own Russell's Ribs. He's very involved in the efforts to help the homeless in New London. And I can't say whether I guess in principle, having a third party dilutes the candidate field and makes unpredictable results. So not that happy that he's not running as a Republican. That would make it a much cleaner race.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's a good candidate who's stepped into the ring is not a bad thing.
No, it's never bad. It's more choices.
Right. More choices is probably a good thing for New London. The Democrats are having their caucus at the end of the month. I think it's the 21st, so that'll be next week sometime, to decide whether Daryl Finizio or Mike Passerell will be their candidate for mayor. So that's going to be an interesting caucus. And I'm sure that regardless of who is chosen by the party, there will be a primary in September.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Both candidates are saying pretty much the same thing. That, if they don't win, they'll primary.
Right.
So,
if you're a Republican and you wanted to change your party, I think it might be too late now.
I don't know. I thought you could go pretty close.
Yeah, I don't remember the deadlines. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound ignorant, but it was reported in the paper today. Well, I don't know if it's reporting when it's in an opinion column.
Yeah.
But the opinionist, Dave Collins, had said that 130-some odd Republicans have recently changed party. so that they can vote in the Democratic primary. And that is the way you have to do it. You have to, if you want to vote in the other party's primary, you have to change party. You can change back before the election.
Yeah, I've done it several times.
So,
You know, when I wanted to vote, I'm a Democrat. When I wanted to vote for a Republican, I just changed parties for a bit, vote for their primary. I voted for Weicker and Puro.
yeah,
So, yeah, what the hell?
what the
You know,
heck?
that way you get to vote for the best person.
Right.
You know, so
And
it's a little inconvenient to switch and then switch back, but you get to vote to who you want to.
yes, and we should all be voting for the best candidate and not the person who's in our party or the person that, you know, mows our lawn or whatever. It should be, your vote should be based on researching the candidate, maybe going to forums and press conferences to find out what the candidate thinks, what the candidate plans to do, what the candidate would like to do, what their vision is for the city. I would love to hear what the vision is for the city from any and all of the candidates.
Yeah. Well, I'm a pastoral supporter. I'm already declared. So I'm going to stick with him. So whoever is the other side, I imagine the people who support him will stick with him. I just think he's the best choice for New London right now. Pastoral is the best choice for New London right now. We got some deep holes to dig out of. So we should get moving. I'm glad when people come to these forums and ask questions. We had a couple of them at Copperwood, and people asked great questions, and the place was packed. So I think people are interested, even now in the summertime. I think people are interested in their town. So I'm not surprised to see that. Would you say 60 or 70 people changed?
About 130 some people have changed party.
That's big for New London.
It's a significant portion of the particularly of the registered Republicans, because there really aren't that many registered Republicans in New London.
Yeah, maybe some of them are just registering too. I mean, for the first time. But that's encouraging. That means people give a shit. I mean, they're starting to pay attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another encouraging thing is that the Republican Party has promised to field a candidate. Because for the longest time, I was wondering personally, are the Republicans going to run anybody in this mayoral election?
Yeah.
And they haven't announced who it is, but they have announced that they have found that they will find a candidate, or they'll present a candidate soon. So that's very encouraging. So it may be a 3-person race. Hopefully, I mean, the last mayoral election, there were 8 candidates for mayor.
There's a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. For me, it was intellectually unmanageable.
I think that was part of that was, you know, this new system of mayor's form of government, and a lot of people were interested and thought that'd be a neat job. So I think that's why we got so much participation. And then it shrunk down towards the end, and it is what it is.
Yep. Good evening. Welcome to LOT.
Good evening, folks. I just have the paper in front of me, and I wanted to correct you. John Russell is running for city councilor, not mayor.
Not mayor. Okay.
Right. It says he's a registered Republican, but he intends to run as unaffiliated. And evidently he's already done his homework and petitioned his way on the ballot. So at least it's now just 2 candidates, because the more people who decide they want to run for mayor, they're going to siphon off votes and watch Benicio get back in again. The other thing I wanted to mention is I think unaffiliated voters can still register as Democrats, but if you're a Republican, it's too late. That's my understanding. As an unaffiliated voter who deliberately went and registered as a Democrat so that I can have a say in what will probably be the real election, the primary.
Yeah.
And lastly, Mr. Cornish, over the years, you and I have disagreed on so many things, but I have to tell you...
And I was right every time!
I admire you for the way you behave at city councilors. You are not afraid to get up on your hind legs and tell them right where the dog died and point your fingers right in their faces and say, you're responsible and you're responsible. And I know you did have a lot to do with organizing the business owners and getting that ridiculous tax increase brought down to a more manageable level. And now that I'm off my soapbox, keep up the good work, LOT. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the call.
Maybe I have to run for mayor. Well, thank you to the caller.
Thank you, caller. We appreciate
And
the words.
there were a great many people that stepped up this time after the ridiculous tax increases that New London is suffering under, and was about to suffer under even more. So congratulations to the people of New London that got stood up to this stuff. So.
Yes, it was very impressive the last few months, you know, hearing business owners and property owners come to the city council, and people say, I'm just one person, I don't have a voice, it doesn't mean anything, but it does mean something if you go and speak directly to your city council, to your elected representatives, and say, enough, this is enough, we can't do this.
Right.
And
we need to do this about any subject. We need to do something about this, whatever the subject is. There
were such rational, reasoned, well-spoken people that presented the information to the council.
Yeah.
And they, you know, it's easy for elected officials to brush you off if you go in and you're flailing your arms. But when it's a person who has a stake in the community, who goes in and says, I can't do this, I can't afford this. We can't afford to lose any more businesses from New London.
Yeah.
So it was very, very heartening for me to hear all the business owners, all the property owners come to consistently over and over to the meetings of the Board of Ed and the City Council and say, this tax increase is too much. And then to see the standing ovation that the council got when they approved a budget that did not increase taxes significantly.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's startling to me after the last 4 years, when taxes have been raised by such significant amounts. It's startling to me to see that the mayor is quoted in the paper as saying that the tax increases are over. The days of the tax increases are over.
Yeah, the big tax increases are over. But we've had them. I mean, we've been slammed for the last 2.5, 3 years between this and the debt. So, I mean, it's way past time. It should have been over 2 years ago. If you had to pull out, we should have got ourselves together and said, this is what we're going to, here's the plan. In the first year, we're going to do this. Second year, we're going to do this. And then we're going to be all right. Instead of these startling, on top of 20% increase, we're going to add another 12%. I don't even know if that was a game with the mayor that says, well, I'll ask for 12%, maybe I'll get this. But people's lives are not games. So I think that's why you saw the response. It's like everybody gave this guy a shot, and he screwed up the town. And so it finally got in the third year, it finally got to the point where say enough,
Right.
And to their credit, both the Board of Education and the City Council listened.
Yes.
I mean, we interviewed people individually and as a group, and they got the message after a while. And because you're eating the seed corn, the farmers call it. You got to tough it out through the winter. You can't eat the seed corn, or you can't plant in the spring,
Right.
Stuff like that.
So if you sabotage the business owners, you sabotage the property owners.
You sabotage jobs, too.
You sabotage the whole city.
Yeah, it's not just one individual, the business owner, that may be doing well. There's employees there. There's distributors and suppliers that supply that store or that restaurant, and so these people can produce whatever the product is and get it out the door. There's a whole chain that feels the effects of that, You have property going up for foreclosure and foolish stuff that doesn't really have to happen.
Right.
You're overtaxed. So it doesn't work out well for anybody, Even though a few, you would say, okay, there's some wealthy people, and so they're making out. You got to really look and really dig and see what's happening here. What is the multiplying effect of that kind of thing? And I don't think this mayor or this administration has got that yet. So, and I'm not slamming anybody. I mean, I know some of them. I respect some of them, but I think some of them are just yes men, and said yes too much, and we got ourselves deep into this. I'll give you a little example, and I don't know the deep details, but they once said in the paper that if we don't get this $1 million bond, we're not going to make payroll. Well, we missed the $1 million bond. They made the payroll, but shortly after that, they put out a bond for $1,100,000. And when they took the money and they put it into the fund balance, which is the city savings account. So, I mean, I could ask anybody, anywhere that owns a house, especially, would you borrow money at 6% and put it in a savings account at 1%? And I think they could do it in their head, saying, oh, that's foolish. And that's exactly, I don't know exactly what the bond amount is, whether it's 6% or 4%, but I know the banks aren't paying anything. So when you put it in the fund balance, you're essentially saying, you know, this is dead money. And the people that lend us money, that look at things like how much is in the savings account of the town, they're smart people. They know if you save that up and put $1 million in the fund balance, or you just made some sort of sleight of hand, say borrow it from here, put it here, so this lender will think we have money. Banks are very smart people. People that work in banks are smart. That's why they have all the money.
Yes.
So those kind of shenanigans, we deserve better than that in this town. So I hope more and more of this gets discussed this summer and this fall about how are we going to go forward, because we have some big bills coming up.
We do.
You know,
We have some decrepit old buildings because the
We
city
do.
has not been a good landlord and a good property manager. So
right.
City Hall is falling apart. The Martin Center, the Senior Center are falling
Yeah.
apart. The Stanton Building can't be occupied because there's a giant crack in the floor.
right. But think of these great opportunities. So now you could take the blinders off and say, look, is a Stanton building worth saving as a public building? Because if the dollar value amount is too much, you should say, okay, let's sell this thing to some private person and let them fix it and let them put apartments in there or offices or whatever, and then charge them taxes,
Yes.
right?
Right. There's a giant parking lot there.
Yeah, it's got great parking.
Somebody could make some money while they're renovating the building, just renting parking out. So you could sell that building for $1, and over the course of years, by putting it back on the tax roll, you'll make a lot of money on that building.
Every once in a while, we say, oh, let's sell off the property, and people in the administration seem to think, well, it's not valuable enough, or it's not worth the trouble. Some things are just little slivers of land, you know, that they don't need. If somebody's willing to buy it, sell the damn thing to them and collect some tax dollars.
Right. Don't sell it to somebody who's not going to pay taxes. Don't sell it to a nonprofit, but sell it to somebody. And if you made $300 a year,
Whatever, it's more than you're making now.
it's more than you're making now,
That's
and
right,
you don't have
right.
the upkeep. So it's not a sunk cost.
Yeah, that's the next thing. You know, what you're speaking about right now is how do we generate revenue in New London? You know, besides real estate taxes. See, for me, everything has to be looked at. Look at everything. Look at the contract. I was at a lady's house down there, Ocean Avenue, near the beach, and it was a pastoral, you know, a meet and greet type of thing. And the lady was talking about the long-term contract of the contractor at Ocean Beach. Well, we should drag that contract out, because my understanding is if they have a bad year, the contractor has a bad year, that the city subsidizes them.
That's correct.
Well, we need to drag that contract out, and if it's 15 years from now, then we need a 15-year plan. How are we going to stop doing this and let contractors or people that buy stuff like that, let them be on their own. If they fail, they fail. You know, you can help them, but I mean, not at the taxpayer's expense. You know, and everything for me, everybody ought to take responsibility for themselves. I mean, everything. I want to see what the water company contract is. I understand that's very long, like 20 years. You know, but it's our water. So I'm hung up on the fact that we either pay the same amount as outside towns, or we may pay a little less. But I would like to have the people in the town say, let's form committees and look at the administration, not just now, but going forward, and get close to something. You know, what are police and fire contracts like? What's public works contract like? You know, just take an interest in something. Parks. How are we using the parks? How much money does it take to maintain a park? You know? Because, I mean, there's one park up there, the Whaling City Restoration Committee. We used to go up there. It's the park next to the little school up there on, shoot, I forgot the street. It's up near the projects.
On Hawthorne?
No. It's right up as you go out of town. It's like there's African Americans planted there from years ago, from revolutionary times. And so this committee, we used to go up there and clean up all the trash and stuff like that. But I mean, there's parks all over town.
Yes.
Are there people adopting, like the neighborhood adopting a park? Are we going to finish the waterfront park? Should we charge admission to it? Those kind of things. See, I'm for that. I think if you create something like the waterfront park and you don't finish it, that there ought to be a way to get a fee for the use of that park. I know Barbara Neff right now is planning food trucks. Last year she was down on the city pier. But I think, I don't know why I think this either, I think she's going to go into the waterfront park. So some of that money ought to be, I'm sure they charge them a fee, so some of that ought to be considered revenue to the city. You know, and let's have more of them. If they're going to compete with restaurant owners like me, let's make a buck off of them. If they're going to come in from out of town, you know, and compete, let's make a buck for the city of New London.
So what's not finished about Waterfront Park? I mean, it's not my favorite place because it's like
Well,
concrete.
there's dirt strips there that are not finished. There's nothing on them. They don't open the bathrooms until, I don't know when, I think it's on Sailfest. It's the only time I've seen the bathrooms actually open and operating. So those things take money and upkeep.
Right.
So, I mean, make pavilions there. I mean, we have people dragging in tents and everything, and that's what you do, coming and going. But, I mean, make a pavilion like you would see at Ocean Beach or someplace like that.
And then rent it and
Rent them out, yeah,
and
sure.
have the revenue. Yeah.
Yeah, just like music on the pier, it's wonderful. I mean, but I think you can get a couple bucks, have it more often. You compete with the restaurants in town, but those are all ways of starting to think about how do we generate income. I'm totally for parking meters, you know. So I mean, let's get some bucks out of the meters.
Right. So the parking meters are a huge cost up front, but if they generate revenue and they make parking more pleasant for the residents, and you know, I mean, there are a lot of balls to juggle with with the parking program.
But we've been talking about it for more than 4
Decades,
years.
yeah.
More than 4 years. When I was on that commission with Kip Boucher and the parking commission, one guy came in, he nailed it right on the head. He said, New London's the biggest town in Connecticut without parking meters. And a few months of that, I drove to Norwich. I drove right off the street, right into this parking garage. Right in front of me is a meter. I put in $2 worth of quarters. Went down, did my business, came back, boom, I'm gone. Town's $2.
Yes, and it didn't hurt you.
No. And we have EB loaded up all the way on Pequot. We have State Street and Bank Street. It's full of traffic all the time. And the meters are very sophisticated. You can have a meter that says, okay, I sense a car coming in here, and so I'll give them 15 minutes before the clock starts. So you run in, you get your newspaper, you get your coffee and to go, and you drive out. You don't pay any money. But if you're going to stay there longer, you have to pay. And I would look at the parking fees in the city garage, and there's a parking in the parking lot. There's surveyors all over the parking lot. I don't know if you've seen them downtown. They're resurveying that whole Eugene O'Neill Drive. And they're all the way down to the restaurant on Howard Street now, the new restaurant down there, at Columbus Circle.
I think we might have a call. Maybe we'll have a call. They are going to take away some parking spaces from the surface lots, and they're thinking that they're going to beautify that lot.
I've heard that, but I'd like to be able to go to see a plan and go to a public hearing. I told Tammy Doherty that I can't wait till the public hearing, so I want to see what the deal is. Because I don't think somebody that parks here and goes to Fisher's Island or get the same rate as somebody that lives or works downtown and has to pay, I think it's $25 or $30 a month.
I think it's $25 a month in the surface lot.
I think that, if anything, we ought to be equal with those folks. It ought to be more expensive for the folks out of town than it is for somebody in town.
I agree. And I agree with you about water rates. I think water rates should be more expensive.
Yeah.
New London owns the water.
Right.
So people who live in East Lyme and Waterford and Montville, whoever gets that water, they should pay a higher rate.
I think they would be encouraged to use that water, because water is going to, as you can see in California, is going to be a very precious commodity. Same with sewer plants. We have a huge sewer plant. They send it in. We have to charge them more than they can do it for themselves.
Right.
Right.
Well,
because it's foolish to build a big plant in a small town like a Montville. So send it down the river.
It's certainly something. It's a service that you need.
Yeah.
It's a service that you need. You don't want to have the infrastructure expense in your town. You don't want to run the sewer plant in your town.
Yeah.
There's a town who's willing to do you this service.
Send it in.
Send it in, but you should pay more because it's not yours.
Right.
Or the people in the town where it resides should pay less because it is theirs. Just like people who live in New London should pay less to go to Ocean Beach.
Right. That's right. Because it's our beach, we're paying taxes on it. So.
And people who live in the neighborhood and want to have a monthly space in the surface lot or the parking garage, people who live in New London should pay less than somebody who doesn't live in New London.
Right. Now, I have nothing against tourists. I love them.
No, they're wonderful. It's awesome.
But we should get a better break.
If you're already paying taxes in the town, then you should get a break on stuff like that.
But we should look at those things. Look at how we're going to, rather than just increase real estate taxes all the time, what can we charge for, or what can we increase the taxes on?
Right. So why can't we charge nonprofits who have small organizations? We pick up their blue can and their green can.
Yeah.
Why don't we charge them for garbage pickup?
See, the best ones contribute. They'll say we're paying this much in lieu of taxes. Not Connecticut College, because they don't contribute. They contribute. I think they're muscled into paying a minimum. Not L&M, because they take stuff off the tax rolls. There ought to be a way for us to say, look, you're here anyway. Even if you're a nonprofit, you got to contribute. I think Yale does it. When I was down in New Haven, Yale did a really good job of that. And I don't remember what the figure was, whether they paid as the equivalent to what they would have had if they were a for-profit organization. But I remember thinking that's a pretty good corporate citizen there. They realize they have the police protection, they have the fire protection, they have sanitation, and they have trash collection. So,
but it would be. I mean, that's a place for me. That's a place to start. To say, if you have a small place, the city will pick up your garbage. But you're a nonprofit, you're not paying taxes, and garbage pickup is something that is for taxpayers. Right. So if you're not a taxpayer, then there's a fee.
Right. Or get your
own.
Service. Right.
There are all kinds of trash haulers in the state that will be happy to come and do that.
That's another thing. If we ever take a look at all the services, some of them we should be performing, and some we should not. I'll tell you right now, I have no idea if anybody recently has done a look and said, is there a sanitation outfit that could pick up trash more efficiently than us? And I'm not trying to put any of the guys, God love them, the sanitation guys. I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. But is that something that's been looked at any kind of recently that would say, should we do this? Should we be doing this? Or should we have a service to do this? What's the best deal for the taxpayers of New London? What's the best deal for New London? So I don't think anybody is thinking like that right now. Not in this last few years, I don't think. I think it's all been desperation, like we got to increase the taxes type of thing. So I hope some people stay energized after this last go around and start to think, let's get a group to take a close look at what we're doing in this area.
And that's something that the business owners had volunteered to do. When you guys were testifying before council, you've all made the commitment that you would be happy to be on a citizens advisory committee about this issue, that issue, the other issue, and to look at how the city does its business. Because I think sometimes when you work in a place for a certain amount of time, you get stale.
I think you do.
And it's a good thing to have fresh eyes. They're not obligated to take the suggestions.
No, but you get a fresh look at it. And after a while, you say, okay, it's time to change.
Right, that might make sense.
Yeah.
Like changing the streetlights to LEDs. That makes sense.
To me, it makes ultimate sense.
It's not a long payback. It's a lot of work to start it, but it's not a long payback in terms of what you save on electricity. Yeah. And it will help. It will help save the city money. Yeah. So let's start there. And apparently that's being done. The lights are being surveyed, and they're planning to change the light fixtures to LEDs. Now, with the street lights, we should go into all the public buildings.
Go into every school, every public building. I did the LEDs in the parking garage maybe 3 years ago, and the bill was like $1,500, $1,600. I've had bills in that parking garage to $600. All the fixtures are, except for maybe 3 in the office, all of them were changed. Another thing about that is many of these vendors will finance these things so you don't have to bond. Bonding is very expensive.
Yes,
somebody told me one time, like, the bonding organization that you go to, they get like 60, 70 grand just to manage it, to get the deal done.
And what I was told was how we had the $1,100,000 bond?
Yeah.
It's because the $100,000 bond goes to the bonding agency. Yeah. So every $1 million costs you $100,000.
It doesn't get cheaper as you borrow more?
I don't think so.
It's worth taking a look.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I own several little properties. I shop for money all the time.
Of course.
I leave a bank in a minute. Because when you think about it, 0.5% over many years is a lot of money. So I would hope somebody in finance in New London is doing the same thing, refinancing loans and that kind of stuff, and taking advantage of a vendor. I mean, many of these vendors will finance. That's how I found out about the parking garage. I was invited down with Kip Beauchene down to the city garage probably 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And there were several vendors there, and at least 2 of them said, we'll self-finance, we'll finance your project. So, I mean, I didn't, and I did get a break from the state of Connecticut because they were pushing LEDs.
Right.
So, in fact, it was a nice break. And I'm sure the city is just as eligible.
Yep.
So, I'm glad to see they're surveying the poles, plus some of them don't work. And so we can get some lights fixed and we can get some cheaper service.
Cheaper service,
Yeah.
brighter lights,
Yeah.
all of our lights fixed so that they're not. I mean, it's bizarre. Sometimes you'll be walking down the street and the light will go off.
Yeah.
It's creepy. So hopefully all those issues will be taken care of, and we'll have a better city, and people feel safer when the lights are on.
Oh yeah.
So
Just on the side, there's I have a lot of little places like hallways and things like that with lights that are on the landlord, not on the tenant. And there's a discount, I think it's called discount power or something. I'm almost totally cut over to these guys because for 6 months you could get it at 7.9%. I'm pretty sure I'm either tied with the city, I might be a little cheaper than the city. And they have some big organizations, some statewide organization that supposedly is looking for cheap vendors and then telling the city, here's a cheap vendor. But somebody needs to look at that, some group needs to look at that and make sure that kind of information gets into the city, because it makes quite a difference. So if you had a cheap power generator and then you have all the street lights, all the public buildings on LEDs, it's like a piece of cake. And I just bought an LED hall light for $10 at the fixture, the whole thing, for $10 at Home Depot. Now, 2 years ago, that same kind of size fixture I was paying $35 for. So
Wow.
I mean, they're coming down, which is lovely.
yeah, it's
So-
kind of like calculators came down in price too.
Yeah,
You can get
just
one at the dollar store now.
Yeah, right.
So those are all interesting things. Well, I'd like to see a lot of the city buildings vacated,
I
and
would, yeah.
people I mean, there's plenty of rental office space in the city.
I think they're looking at now. I think Tammy Doherty told me that they're looking around for a rental space, and it's here. I mean, there's office space here. I think even the Man Warren building has office space, and there's all kind of storefronts. I mean, depends on how many people you need. I don't know everything that's in the Martin Center, but now of course, it's my pet peeve. There's some of this stuff ought to go right into the schools and out hours. Like adult ed, go into a school and out hours. Pay the custodian, keep the lights on, clean up after, and use the building. I mean, some of the buildings are just gorgeous. I mean, now some of the newer schools are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And they're used for 6 to 8 hours a day. See, I would keep them open and say, social services, adult ed, community groups. Even if you charge them $20, if you want to use this meeting space and charge them $20, $30, whatever the going rate is, use them. Instead of everybody's got to have their own little kingdom with just Board of Education and with just this. I don't see the reasoning behind that. Instead of having 2 or 3, you might be able to have 1 or 2 buildings.
Yeah.
And I think it would be motivated if you do what you say. Look at a building with cold, calculating eyes and say, we can't save this building for $6 million. We can't save this building for $200,000. Let it go.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
And maybe the person who buys it will tear it down and build something else.
Maybe.
But
whatever he does,
you don't
he's
have
going to
any
be on the
control
road.
over that.
No, you don't. You don't.
What you need.
No, like zoning has some control of it.
What you need to look at is what is it generating now in terms of revenue, and what could it generate in the hands of a private owner,
Yeah.
regardless of what it becomes.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sad for lost opportunities. But I am excited that some developers were interested in the Lighthouse Inn, because that's a wonderful piece of property with a lot of history.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be really interested in finding out what the developers are planning, because apparently not everybody has the same ideas.
Oh, with 5 or 6 developers, probably don't. But see what they
see what they say,
bring,
see what they have up their sleeves, and
don't give it away. I mean, get something. I mean, they should have a deal. They should cut them a deal, because we want to get it back on the tax rolls full.
Yes.
And so there should be some period of years where they can work up. Say just for argument, 5 years you got to be full bore, because downtown, if you redevelop something from the time that you finish the redevelopment, you have, I think, 6 or 7 years until the taxes get up to where they're supposed to be. So it's like a little incentive, in that enterprise zone there. So one of the things we could do is, okay, make the Lighthouse in an enterprise zone. Mm-hmm. You get the same deal as downtown gets.
Right.
And see if that's enough. Something like that. But something with a start time and an end time, and then you pay just like everybody else.
Right, and there should be measurable progress. You shouldn't be able to buy the property and then just let it sit.
No, that's what they did over that school over there on Coleman Street. Edgerton School, that's ridiculous.
It's horrible.
The contract, I don't know who designed that one, but the contract should say, you got from this time to invest 25% of whatever you're going to invest, and then you got this many more years to do 50%. And then at the end of that time, you have to be up and running and paying taxes, not just holding so you can flip it. And that's what a lot of these smart guys do. I'm probably just jealous, but that's what they do.
But, I mean, if you say you're a developer and you say you have a plan and you say that you're going to do this, that, and the other.
Sign a contract.
Then sign a contract and we'll give you these concessions, but we have to see specific measurable progress toward this goal.
Yeah.
And this is what you have to have done by here, and this is what you have to have done by here. And then somebody has to go out and inspect it and verify that, they're not at this place, so their taxes are increasing.
Yeah. I mean, I've signed non-refundable contracts before. If they're serious, sign a non-refundable contract. We want 20% down, we want 3% down, whatever it is. If you don't fulfill the contract, you don't get your deposit back. Yeah. That incentivizes a lot of people to get going because they got money in the game. Mm-hmm. So. And
that's the thing. You have to have skin in the game or you don't move.
How simple this sounds when you and I do it.
I know. Wait till we're running the world.
Right. And it would be smooth. Shoot.
But when you were on city council and I worked for the city, you and I would talk about, wouldn't it be wonderful if? Wouldn't it be wonderful if, I would have loved to see, before they sold part of Parcel J to the building behind it for parking, I would have loved to see a municipal complex on that piece of property with the fire station, the police station, all the municipal offices, the senior center, underground parking.
That's still big enough to do that. There's somebody that's got it tied up again, but that happens every 2 or 3 years. Somebody else will come in and say, well, I'm going to do this, and then it falls through, and it's empty for a couple of years, and then somebody else comes through.
Right.
So I remember me and Beth Sibilia, when I was council with Beth Sibilia, going over and over and over this in a small committee, and we couldn't get it out. We couldn't get anybody to be interested in it. Because the police station is in a ridiculous place.
Yes.
Down there.
It is.
And the firehouse,
is falling apart.
It's got structural problems.
Ancient.
But, it's still usable, but...
Barely.
But, it's still there, so,
And the nice thing about the firehouse is that there's most likely someone who would love to buy that and renovate it for apartments or whatever.
Oh, whatever,
Because people love old firehouses.
Yeah.
So I think that it could sell easily. And I think that whoever bought it would probably make it an asset to the neighborhood. And I think that the firefighters might like to be in a brand new facility.
Oh, I think they would.
And I think that the city clerk might like to have a vault that's big enough for all the records. And, it would be wonderful to have parking by the city hall so that if you need to go into city hall for a birth certificate or a land record or to pay your water bill or to go to the senior center, that there's parking there for you. I just think that it would be a good spot.
I think it's an excellent spot. I really do. It's the center of town.
But, who am I?
Right. Who are we? Just brainstorming ideas here. no money,
Yeah.
no office. We're not holding office. We're not running for elected
We're not
office.
running for elected office, no.
So we
but-
can have fresh eyes and fresh ideas, and we have no skin in the game, so we don't have any to lose. If nobody takes us up on any of our suggestions, okay, we'll go on. We'll just keep plugging along.
So when I win the lottery and I have $90 million, I'm building a municipal complex on Howard
That's it,
Street.
right. And you could be the landlord. Rent it out to the city of New
Rent
Orleans.
it out to the city. That would be entertaining.
Yes, it would be. It would be.
I'm raising your rent.
Yeah. Or get out. Go back to your old place.
That's right. If you don't ever raise taxes again, I'm never raising your rent.
Well, I'm so encouraged. I'm feeling so optimistic because so many people, like the downtown group, got involved. So many people are changing their political affiliation for a little while. That I think people are getting more interested in it. It's summertime. I mean, by the time this referendum or this
The elections, this primary, by the time the primary comes around.
goes, I mean, that's just like,
It's a
I
month
think
and-
this,
2 months away?
Yeah. So, I mean,
It's amazing that there's this much interest at this time of
I'm
year.
encouraged there's this much interest and the amount of volunteers that are involved. I mean, I'm on pastoral team, and I mean, there's a lot of people in the room down there on Bank Street as headquarters, and all charged up and working. I'm encouraged because it's hard to get people charged up and working about something, but this shows a lot of people in this town are concerned about their town, and are willing to volunteer their time and services, making contributions, that kind of stuff. So.
I will say that one thing that I heard over and over from the people making public comment at the meetings was, I love New London.
Yeah.
I mean, unqualifiedly,
Yeah.
I love New London. I don't, excuse me, some people didn't live here anymore.
Yeah.
Some people were business owners who don't live in the town,
Yeah.
but they love New London.
Yeah.
And you can't buy that.
No. We had the chairman of the museum, the development of the museum, come into
The Coast Guard Museum?
city center meeting, and we all just met this guy. And they have an office now down on Bank Street behind used to be an old firehouse. It's right on Tilly, next to Frank's place, on Tilly and Bank Street, that building. In the back of that used to be an engineering office. The Coast Guard Museum people are taking that office.
Oh,
They're going to be here full time, which is
that's encouraging.
Yeah, very encouraging. They're charged up, ready to go. Of course, the architect is out of Boston, so I don't know if he has or she has an office down here yet. But I don't know why I know this, but I think it's going to be in the train station. Because the guy that bought the train station for the Coast Guard is from Louisiana, and he was talking about having offices up here. But the guy that's in charge of all the fundraising and stuff, he's behind Bank Street. So I mean, things are moving, So it's very encouraging. So I don't know when we're going to break ground or anything, but I think the town's going to be changed for the better.
Yep.
For me, it'll be like having a little Ocean Beach down here, that kind of attraction that New London has downtown. And so I disagree with most of the people in the suburbs that say it should be in Fort Trumbull. I think I think where they picked is perfect, right down in the heart of town. So,
Well, it remains to be seen whether it's perfect or not.
Yeah.
I think Fort Trumbull would have been a good place for it. But I think if they want to build, I mean, I'm not building it. Not my museum.
Yeah.
This is what's been planned, so let's go with it.
Yeah. I don't like the idea of the Fort Trumbull because I was one of those guys that walked every Thursday or whatever day prayer meeting we had down there. I don't like the idea of the Coast Guard Academy Museum being built on the bones of that depressing operation they had down there when they threw those people out. So I don't like that taint. So I'm glad they're not down there for that reason. Not that it's not a good location. They got a substation and everything down there.
Right.
So.
But downtown's a happier place.
Yes, it is. It is.
Good evening. You're on with LOT.
Hi, good evening, folks.
Hi.
Hi.
I always enjoy listening, especially when you have Mr. Cornish on.
Me
Big,
too.
yeah, big mouth, talk a lot.
No, you have a lot of insight, and a lot of people should listen to the things that you have to share in your insight, because you and your son are definitely great examples of successful businessmen, and you got to have a good head to do that. My question is, do you think the Republicans are even going to bother putting somebody into the mayor? I mean, is there somebody out there that can compete between Passero and Benigio? And I'll hang up and listen to you. Thanks, guys.
Sure. Thanks for the call.
See, I don't know all the Republicans, but I wouldn't put somebody up just to put them up, because that'll just dilute the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Just to say, okay, we have a candidate in there. So I wouldn't do that. There's 2 candidates right now. If you just throw somebody up there, well, there's 3, because Russell's not running for mayor.
No, he's
Okay.
running for city council.
There's
We
two
were
that-
corrected.
There's 2 that we know of. And I think that's where the focus should be. Unless there's a burning issue, or, I mean, somebody that really has a fire in the belly that wants to run for mayor, whether it's Republican or independent or anybody else, I don't think you should do it.
Well, the Republicans announced that they are going to run a candidate for mayor.
And absolutely,
So,
run somebody.
Well,
Run
no,
somebody.
it's not going to be Marty Olson. He's already said he's not running. Keith Robbins said he's not running.
Piro's not running, the paper said.
The paper said Piro's not running. So who does that leave? I don't know. I mean,
Well, there's a dark horse somewhere that's called a Republican. All I'm saying is, Republicans should run somebody.
but
if
they should
have
run
some
somebody who's
passion.
exciting.
Right.
And
If just to say, let's put somebody up there, I think that's a mistake. And they're not a big party in New London, and I think that would damage them. They say, well, the Republicans put somebody up just to put them up. If they don't have somebody that's really charged up around wanting to help the city and everything, and it can articulate that, I think they hurt themselves as a party by putting somebody up.
Mm-hmm.
So
but we shall see.
we shall see. We shall see. Pay
It'll be.
attention.
I mean, to me, it's exciting and interesting that they're planning to run a candidate, because
Yeah.
I think if you don't have that, it's a lack. But I also see that if we have Finizio, Passero, and a Republican candidate, it dilutes the votes.
Mm-hmm.
And surprising things can happen when you dilute the votes,
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
candidate that you wanted to win may not win. Somebody else may win. So it's, whatever happens, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Yeah.
And
we a lot of you probably remember this. A lot of years ago, we had the One New London Party,
Yes, I do
and 2 of
remember.
us got on.
Yes.
So I mean, it's doable, but there was a energy and a charged up enough about what was going on in town that we wanted to have an impact. We wanted to make a change.
Yep.
So I mean, it can be done. No shots against the Republicans, because in my heart, I'm a Republican. But if they don't have a real fire for it, it's like,
It's got to
Don't
be
do it.
somebody with great ideas. It's got to be somebody
and
with
somebody with
vision
energy. Yeah.
and energy, and
'Cause
somebody
it's a lot of
who's gonna-
work.
somebody who's going to beat the streets and
Yeah.
knock on doors and talk to people personally, not just send out their campaign staff, but actually go personally meet people.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of work,
Yeah.
because it's hot and it's summer and fall, and
even
there are a lot of stairs.
that's right.
'Cause I know.
Even the city council, when you're running for city council, you get a package of this thick on a Friday night, and you've got to be up to speed by Monday. You spend a lot of time on the weekend going through that package, and then Monday day trying to get some information from the administration, so you don't sound like an idiot on Monday night.
Yeah.
And then just multiply that times 100 or 1,000 when you're the mayor. So just to say, well, we'll run somebody, or just to say, well, I'll run just to see how I can do, it's really not good
Nah,
enough.
that's not
Don't
good
bother.
enough.
Don't bother. You got
So-
to be charged up. You got to be passionate to
I
do
agree.
this.
So major props to the volunteers who are our city councilors, because it's
yeah,
a lot of work.
Yeah.
And even though we may not agree with you all the time, we appreciate the work.
We really do. Yeah.
So
yeah.
just in closing, I want to remind everybody that LOT meets on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month at the Senior Center in New London at 7 p.m. Everybody's welcome. If you want to join, the dues are $10, and that means you get to vote on issues that we're talking about at our meetings. Our picnic's coming up September 19th, and whoever's running for mayor, we can just about guarantee that you'll be able to hear them at our candidate forum in October. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
get them in the evening too. I get the blues in the morning. How about you?